Eastern games have given up on the West. Before we get into this video and react to it, whatnot, have you heard about this, and what are your sort of thoughts on it?
So I had seen a headline that sounds similar to what you just said, but I haven't had the time to look into it. So I'm curious to see what's up.
We doing it live, baby. Let's go.
Let's do it live.
And Eastern companies are leaving the West. I love this. I think that a lot of people have taken notice that a lot of games look the same, sound the same, play the same, smell the same.
Hey, thanks for the sub, L-Dub.
A lot of this is coming from an oppressive culture driven by middle management midwits that believe that their opinions, their values, their beliefs, their worldviews need to be reflected in all forms of media. And it's turned into a sort of soft censorship. Most of these issues, nearly all of them, are being exported from here in the U.S., my home soil, the good U.S. of A. And these guys are...
Now, are you familiar with Legendary Drop Saw as a creator?
Nope.
So
I don't watch most YouTube.
He's not a culture war channel. He's not really. He's a very apolitical individual. He's a indie game dev that talks gaming stuff. And so to hear him say, because my initial thought when I heard, the East is pulling out, I was not going to jump to anything culture about it. I just assumed AI. It's going to be AI. So yeah, it's if his read on it is because it's due to social differences between the East and the West, I'm finding that to be interesting, or maybe that could be a cover for AI, or it could be both. Who's to say?
Okay.
They're so self-absorbed. They don't care about what it takes to make a good game. They don't care about the audience. The only thing that they can think about is shareholders, their personal or political leanings, and their incompetence and their influence doesn't just extend to their games, it's now extended overseas. And this has turned into a sort of cultural erasure. We're going to call it colonization because, we're pretty good at that. And the East is sick of it. They don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. So you have companies like Square Enix that are closing down shop, they're laying off workers, and they're consolidating their efforts back in Japan because they feel like that's the best place for them to be making games.
Now, were you aware of the massive Western layoffs of Square Enix?
I was aware of that. Yeah, I was aware of that.
Based on just like your what you know about them pulling out of the UK and most of California, would you get the read on it that this is ideology or politically based or anything like that?
It's probably a lot more multifaceted than that. However, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to believe that is at least a part of it. A lot of it, I think, is world economy in general as well right now. But I think that the fact that you've seen a degradation in a lot of these traditionally Japanese IPs, and frankly, I'm sure that the people over in Japan who this is their stuff. We're borrowing their culture. We're borrowing their media when it gets ported over, when it gets translated and localized and all things like that. That's us, getting to play with their toys, essentially. And when you do what it's happening a little less frequently now, because I think some publishers and devs are starting to wise up. However, when you disrespect the property by drastically changing things, and I'm not talking you're tweaking some dialogue in order for something to make sense to a Western audience, not reflect Western values, but make sense.
Yeah,
in order for the
I always use is Japan doesn't have the phrase beating a dead horse, right? It just doesn't exist in the vocabulary. Right. But if they have something similar and you need that we don't have, and you're translating a game, there are going to be things that you do need to change because it just flat out does not translate. I find that to be fine, acceptable. It's when you go the extra mile and you flat out change entire context and meaning, that is again that's when you break it for me.
When you go out of your way to insert something that was never there, right? You are now inserting your own Western values or your own personal beliefs, whether it be political, socio-political, social, whatever. You're inserting that into something where it did not exist before, all because you can. That's no different than me coming over to your place and we play Smash Brothers and I whoop your ass, but I break your controller anyway. Because I would whoop your ass.
Not even argue as it currently stands. You were the one that's beaten me. That will change in the near future.
We'll have a rematch one of these days.
I'll let slide continue.
But that's what it is, essentially. We're breaking their toys when it's not something that belongs to us. And so I got to imagine that the people over there at some point kind of got sick of that. And they're like, you know what? we're not about this anymore. Like, we're sick of you doing this, you know? And so
I'd
there's
also add
probably
that
a lot more to it than that, but I'm sure that's part of it.
Right, and well, I would also add to it that the Western like divisions of Square Enix, the games they put out, a lot of them owned by Crystal Dynamics or even just Square Enix.
Oh yeah,
Western
well, those have been
divisions.
flots.
So like Forspoken was a failure. The not Final Fantasy, the Avengers game was an abject failure. The Tomb Raider games had diminishing returns, both financially and because of fans. So like, yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's multifaceted. Melissa Lord for a 2-banger says 2 for the fund. Ubisoft thoughts? They gone. If Tencent pulls out, they are gone. Absolutely. Shout out. Thank you for the 2. Y'all said, will you watch Scream 7? I haven't actually looked forward to a movie for real since episode 7. That sucked. Stu better be there and not a flashback. I'm mixed on Scream 7 or not. I've not seen the last several Screams, but there's
I've only seen the first one.
Chance. The first was great. I love the first one. I do think he will be there as more than just a flashback. So, but no, shout out, Melissa. Thank you. All right, let's keep it moving.
And the funny thing is that for whatever reason, nobody has taken notice that this has been going on for a while now. 5 years in the making. Japan is not alone in this. No, you've had companies in China, companies in Korea, as well as other companies in Japan that have been pulling their efforts out of the West and bringing them back home, trimming the fat, so to say. So today I want to talk about why that's happening. I want to talk about why Japan's biggest publisher is pulling back. I want to talk about why Japan's government is telling their artists to stop taking notes from the.
I don't know that I could be wrong, but I don't know that Square Enix is Japan's biggest publisher. I would think that, you know, for example, Capcom's a bigger publisher than Final Fantasy than Square Enix.
So I guess it depends on how they're measuring this, because if we're just strictly talking publishing, Square Enix does publish a lot, to where it's stuff that they're not necessarily developing in-house, where they're like a publisher and therefore like funding or whatever, all sorts of other smaller dev teams and things like that. Maybe they could make that argument. I genuinely don't know, and so I'm not going to speak out of ignorance on it. I will say that I would have thought that Bandai Namco would be larger, personally.
Yeah, Namco is another one I was going to throw out there, yeah.
But again, I could be wrong. I don't have the data.
Hypnotic makes a point. Square Enix also publishes manga as well as anime. Like, they published like the My Dress Up Darling anime. I assume they had a hand in the manga as well.
Oh, so do they? Okay.
They're not just exclusively involved in games. That he might make a point there.
Okay.
West, and why I think this is going to start a creative split that we haven't seen since the 90s. It couldn't happen any sooner. This video is sponsored by boot.dev, the smartest way to learn how to code with.
All right, you guys know how it works on this channel. If we're going to be stealing people's content, we let their ad reads play out. So let's see what you got to say.
Out getting bored. You know, sometimes I'll just flip through boot.dev lessons, not because I'm trying to make my own game, but because I want to understand how games are actually made. It's crazy to see how much logic and structure goes into a lot of these systems that we take for granted. And honestly, I think more people should give it a shot. We have seen so many wild indie success stories lately, solo developers turning side projects into full careers. I think it would be great to see somebody from my own community do the same. Boot.dev makes learning feel like a game. You build real projects in Python, SQL, and Go, earn XP, level up, and even fight bosses as you learn. And the best part is, this stuff actually pays. The median salary for backend developers in the US last year was just over $100,000. Not bad for learning something that starts as a hobby. It's completely free to read and watch every course, and if you want to unlock the interactive coding, AI tutor, and progress tracking, that's where the subscription comes in. Go to boot.dev or click the link in the description and use my code LegendaryDrops to get 25% off your first year on an annual plan. You can also just scan the QR code on screen. It'll take you straight there with the discount automatically applied. Thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. A lot of games media has spent the past couple of years mourning the layoffs, the studio closures, the failed games. They've been blaming the economy, inflation, tariffs, whatever the trending excuse is for that quarter. But what I don't think a lot of people have understand, or at least caught on to, is that this is not an industry-wide collapse. It's not global. I think what we're watching right now is the West.
Out the gate, he hits the nail on the head of something I've been saying for ages. You're only seeing this in the West. You are not seeing these massive layoffs in the gaming industry in the East. There's clearly a reason for that beyond that, because right now the global economy is shit. So you can't blame the economy if it's just happening in the West.
Well, it's primarily the West where we're hiring for jobs that have no market value. We're hiring for, you know, or at least we were. Not all those positions are the first to get cut, and they're getting cut right now, like your DEI positions and things like that. Like all of those
middle management
positions there's no demand for those jobs whatsoever. It is a made up position. It's a fake job. to solve a problem that didn't exist. And what happens when companies need to trim the fat? The stuff that's useless and not making money.
Hypno says the West is at fault. Yes, to be fair, Japan has a very heavy anti-firing culture. They refuse to fire rather than make you try quit. That's I guess that's true. Yeah, that is a well-known thing in Japan. I thought I could be wrong. I didn't think Japan was anti-firing. I think they were anti-mass layoffs. They'll fire at an individual level, but they just won't do mass layoffs. Unless I'm wrong. I don't know if anyone can correct me on that.
Western games apocalypse. Sure. It's one that's built on greed, idealism, ego, and the slow erasure of individualism in a space that used to thrive on distinct voices. You can feel it in just about everything that comes out from a AAA publisher today. These games do not carry the identity of the people or the studios that are making them. No, they carry the identity of one culture center, one value system. And because of that, they're getting trapped in this binary state. Either you have a game that is designed purely to wring as much money out of its customers as possible, or you have a game that's pushing a set of values, trying to win points in a culture that's more polarized than it's ever been. Profit.
So, when you talk about the individuality here, what games do you think you've played the most this year? Like not from any particular region or country, just like in general, off the top of your head, what games do you think you've played the most?
Let's see. Despite this year being the year I have had the least amount of like free time that I could allocate to gaming, probably in my entire life, I still managed to carve out several hundred hours to play and platinum the Steam version of Stellar Blade. And
nice.
To play the absolute piss out of the remaster of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black that came out. What was it, back during the summer?
I have that, but I haven't gotten to play it yet. I imagine it's good.
I played it and destroyed it in a weekend. I played it on hard because that game was my jam, dude. Like Ninja Gaiden is my jam. And so I like, it took me a little bit to like get used to it again, right? Because it'd been a hot minute since I played it on the 360. But once I got back in my groove, I was like, oh man, I got this. And it was done so well. I had a blast. So it was mainly action games that I played outside of my usual annual like replays of some JRPGs. But just about everything I was playing this year did come out of the East.
Yeah,
actually, now that I think about it.
For me, it's been all Eastern games or all indie games. Like I'm bouncing back and forth between like.
I need to finish Expedition 33 still. I haven't finished it. I started it.
I haven't started.
Really good.
I'm building my new rig in like the next 2 weeks, and so I'm waiting for the nice new shiny rig so I can run it at like the optimal way to play Expedition 33.
Respect.
But yeah, beyond that, I mean, dude, I've sunk so much time into Schedule 1 and Repo or Tormented Souls, but I've also, dude, I put within a month of it coming out, I put over 100 hours into Sonic Crossworlds Racing.
So I have, oh gosh, I'd have to check my Steam, but I think I have something like 60 or 70 hours in it, something like that. I played the crap out of it, and just because I was like, I am unlocking Supersonic as fast as possible. Though I'm bummed that like he's locked to the offline.
He's locked to story mode. Yeah.
I know. I was like, man, I just spent all this time to unlock his ass. Like, really? I hope at some point that they make him available, a version of him, because obviously, like in the story mode, he's immune to a lot of stuff.
Right? Yeah.
You can't just carry that over into online multiplayer.
Can use it online. Yeah, but yeah,
and give me Super Shadow and Super Silver as well.
It's been all indies and all Eastern games for me this year. Like I'm not saying there hasn't been any Western AAA stuff, but I can't think of any off the top of my dome.
Over enjoyment on one side, moral projection on the other. What this has led to is more and more games, whether made in the West or simply influenced by the West, and they're releasing to an audience that simply doesn't exist. The same thing is happening in movies and TV. This isn't some hit piece on anyone's beliefs or values, by the way. People can believe whatever they want to. The issue is when the expectation is that everybody else is required to bend to them, agree to them, and then pay for content that's built around selling someone else's worldview. This would be fine if it all stayed in the West, but of course it didn't. Whether it's the obsession with live service or the urge to export values the same way we export entertainment, this mindset has pushed itself into Eastern studios too, and the result has been...
Now, to be fair, the East is very much taking advantage of live service. Like when you see all them gotcha games, shit like that.
I was about to say, dude, like I can't talk shit. I play Nikke, all right? I spend absolute minimal.
Resident Evil stuff. Like
I spend absolute minimal amount. I think I've maybe over the course of the last year spent maybe $50 on it, when you have people that are spending hundreds of dollars every month on it. But because I try to like pick my battles, but it's fun. It can be mindless because you can kind of play it on autopilot and have the battles go auto. Like, so I'll do that sometimes while I'll have my phone up here, or you can also pull up the PC version of it while I'm like working or whatever. So I can multitask, right? And like my direct boss, Caro, over at the Rippaverse, she plays too. And so sometimes we'll just be like, if a meeting is particularly like, all right, right now there's nothing that we can contribute in this meeting. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, like that. We're just like, all right, like, have you done your dailies yet? Nope, I'm getting on it right now. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think the live service is one of the biggest issues in gaming right now, and that's not exclusive to the West. Like, again,
oh yeah,
especially China has really capitalized on live service.
Pretty predictable. Bad localization, censorship, outright bans, forced adjustments to character designs and art. You don't have to be a part of any culture war to get hit in the crossfire. You just got to be making games or playing games. And slowly, piece by piece, these studios have been surrendering parts of themselves, parts of their own identity, because somebody else decided that their work needed to fit into a Western mold of what's acceptable. And this is something that I think was echoed perfectly by the creator of Dragon Quest last year when he was asked why designs for Dragon Quest 3.
Did you see this?
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah, I remember just being like, well, because so there was like one or two designs where I was like, I actually kind of like that. This was not one of them. This was like, this just looks goofy, and like you got lazy. If you wanted, here's the thing. Okay, I wouldn't want them to alter the original design at all. That's the baseline. But if you're gonna do it, make it look cool. All you did was put a sports bra and like sports tights on her. It doesn't look cool.
Like,
it doesn't look good.
There's even more of a personal front to it because, like, Akira Toriyama passed away. You're altering the man's art. You're altering
that a dead man's work
after he passed. Like, it just this one infuriated me just because I hold Akira Toriyama as the one above all when it comes to
a lot
manga.
of people were rightfully pissed off about that, and I don't blame them.
Remake were being censored.
するとね、年齢が上がっちゃうっていうね。全年齢じゃなくなってしまうっていうのがあったりとか。ルールがやっぱなんか各国違ったりするんでね。広くろうと思うと一番厳しいところに合わせざるを得ないとか。
でも当時そんなこと思わなかったですけどね。コンプラっていう名のね、やっぱりね、ある種のね、なんだろうな、絶対心というべき、善の名を借りた悪みたいなのがある。
あ、man。
全員が
See, this is actually where I disagree with them, though, is that, like, when he says an evil to guys is good, I see a lot of people like, oh, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And maybe I'm just so
I don't think there's good intentions in it.
Exactly. That's the thing, is like, you
not
had to
good
believe
intentions
there's
there.
good intentions at first. And I do think that, and maybe this is a minority belief, or maybe I'm just making it up, I'm not sure, but the Japanese market that sees the West doing this thinks that there is good intentions. I think they've been duped into thinking there's good intentions when we in the West are like, no, there's not good intentions to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't think there's any good intentions there.
Under the name of compliance, it's like an absolute god, and evil disguised as good. Man, that line goes so hard. You know, this dude makes banger games. We went from starting wars over oil to telling girls to put on a shirt. My deepest apologies to the rest of the world. This brand of ideologically driven censorship is not just coming from Western game studios. It's coming from ratings boards, governments, and worst of all, credit card companies. These are the people who are basically telling these artists and these creators, bend to our values or we will break you financially. And the irony is that even with all this self-censorship, even with all the compromised creative directions, these companies are still losing money, a lot of money, because nobody wants to buy the end result. And those financial losses have not stayed contained. They have sent shockwaves across the ocean. Eastern governments are finally starting to wake up to what's happening, and they're actually doing something about it. Japan's Ministry of Economy.
I'm very mixed on how I feel about that. Just like, as an individual who thinks all governments are evil, like, the government can say, these Eastern governments can be like, we're going to regulate it to where the Westerners can't fuck with our shit anymore. Part of me is like, yes, games will be good again. The other part of me is like, but the government's the one saying they're going to take care of this.
Yeah, it's the government the one saying it should be the people saying, no, F all of you and F this.
Right.
Economy, trade, and industry stepped up to defend its creative industries, especially games, manga, and anime, pushing growth while rejecting Western interference and restrictions being forced on them by global platforms and payment processors. The ministry's new policy lays out 5 key principles: large-scale, long-term strategic support, support for spreading Japan-made content globally, no interference in content of creative works, direct support for creators and companies, prioritizing those willing to take risks. And now I love to see a government actually stepping up to protect its local.
All right, I have to do the thing that people don't like to hear, but I have to be negative because a lot of people report on this like it's a good thing. This isn't a piece of. I think that's because people aren't familiar with with Japanese legislation and whatnot. This isn't a piece of legislation. This isn't a law. This isn't anything that will be voted on. This is just an update to an already existing guideline. So people thinking that this is going to, and I'd love to be wrong, maybe I am wrong, but since it's in a policy, a government policy guideline, this is being updated and it's not actually a law or a piece of legislation that's going to be voted on, I don't know that it will actually be taken seriously or enforced. So I think
that's pretty commonplace for anything at the legislative level, right? For when it comes to government, where it's like, we're gonna talk all this noise, we're gonna spout our mouths off, we're gonna say stuff that you guys are really gonna like, right? Like, oh yeah, that sounds great, and then nothing actually changes.
Well, I mean, didn't we here in the West vote to get rid of fucking daylight savings time like last year, and yet this year everybody turned their clocks back? Like, it's just
stupid.
Industries. And the best part is these guys are not doing it alone. No, these companies are starting to fight back too, not with speeches, but with their budgets. Because when the West is trying to bully you into submission, you got to remember there's only one language to speak, and that language is money. Stop investing in them, stop hiring them, stop relying on them, and they will change their tune. And that's exactly what some of these Eastern game companies have started doing.
So here's the question I pose to you then, because by and large, I would agree with him. And a lot of people have said this: vote with your wallets and eventually things will change. But I imagine you've been paying attention to the payment processor issues that have been happening specifically with Eastern markets, but also here in the West over the last couple of years. If the payment processors are out there saying, we're not even going to allow you to host your game on XYZ platform, or we're going to shut down the payment processing option for your platform if you have these games or these media in general we disagree with. How do you fight against that? Because at this point, that's a global thing.
That's the tricky part, right? That's where they up the ante, because you have the centralization of the banks. And that's a whole other beast to talk about that we probably don't have a 5-hour show for.
Right.
Like, to be honest, because I think both of us are pretty libertarian. And so like,
I call myself libertarian. It's almost as like that's anarchist side. I consider myself a full-on anarchist, but like I know that's not tenable in the real world. So libertarian as a default.
Sure, yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. And so like that's where it gets harder and harder. So that's when you have to start making either really hard decisions. And on the fact of the matter is, not everybody is always in the same position to make those kinds of decisions. When it comes to your entertainment is always a luxury. Entertainment is a choice. So you do ultimately have that choice as the individual to say, you know what? I'm going to no longer choose to give my money to this company. If that is your individual choice, right? And that's something that has to be an organic thing. Like, it always bothers me when the conversation goes from, speak with your wallets, but then some of the people that say speak with your wallets are trying to strong arm other people into saying the same thing with their wallet, even if those other people are like, yeah, like I kind of see what you're saying, but I'm not there yet, right? People are always at different places. People are always at different levels, right? And so you have to allow people to come to decisions on their own. And sometimes that takes their favorite.
Our job is like, hey, here's the news. Do with this information what you will.
Here's the information. Yeah.
Right. Like I don't tell people, you know what? Don't go see The Running Man. It's full of commie bullshit. Like I don't know if it is or not. That's what people were saying on stream earlier. I was using that as an example. Like I'm going to say that I'm probably going to, based on everything I've heard about it, watch it via the high seas, and I'll make up my own mind, and we'll go from there. And I'll give my opinion on a movie or whatever. But yeah, like telling people how to spend their money doesn't do anything because you're exhibiting the same authority.
Nobody likes the pocket watcher,
right?
Every major publisher in the East has been systematically rolling back their Western footprint, consolidating their efforts back home. In 2024, Nexon laid off hundreds of workers at Nexon America under the banner of exciting IP growth strategy. Tencent has closed 3 Western studios and laid off hundreds of workers. NetEase shut down 6 Western studios.
And that's another thing, dude. Like, as somebody who loathes communism, don't like the CCP, but also likes good quality products. I don't
And Marvel
like
Rivals is a good game.
Right, exactly. Like you've got to sort of pick, because you mentioned earlier picking your battles. It's like, do I like the CCP? No. Would I rather my communist propaganda come from communist China instead of somebody in America pretending they're not communist, claiming they're just left or whatnot? I would take the people that are at least openly communist over the people pretending they're just lefties, you know?
Right.
Adding to more than a dozen closures since 2022. And now Square Enix is joining them. In an article from IGN written by Rebecca Valentine titled, Square Enix undergoes mass layoffs as it reorganizes to consolidate development in Japan, Rebecca writes, via public posts from former employees as well as confirmation from internal sources, IGN has learned that employees in the UK and the US are being informed of layoffs today, with an unknown number of US employees being dismissed by the end of the week and a possible 137 jobs at risk in the UK. Under UK law, Square Enix must undergo redundancy consultations to see if any jobs can potentially be saved. So the final number in the UK can be smaller. It's not clear yet which teams.
What you got?
The anti-government in me got mad. the government telling a business, no, you can't cut people from their job. Look, like, it sucks. The human empath in me is like, I don't like, even if it's people that I don't like the idea of people not having a roof over their heads, not having food on their table. Obviously, you make decisions, and if your decision results in that, that's on you. However, like, I don't like a government telling a company that's like, hey, we have to make these cuts for whatever financial reason, or because these people are bad employees, or some combination thereof, and the government going in and saying, no, you gotta make sure you double check. Mind your business.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And like, you're actually a lot more empathetic than I am in regards to that, because like when people lose their jobs, it's like, fuck them. They made those decisions. I don't like it sucks that you put yourself in that position, but you put yourself in that position. Like, I'm very much on the, if I had to care about every, quote unquote, bad thing that happens to every person or whatnot, there wouldn't be time in the day to be happy, be positive. You would just be fucking miserable. So I take a far, and whether it's healthy or not, I don't know, but I'm a very callous individual when it comes to that, because at the end of the day,
I can totally understand that position.
The job you were doing was an irrelevant job. Like, I mean, look, I'm not going to get mad that the dude isn't, working in the car factory anymore because robots took over. Technology grows and whatnot, but guess what? That technology growing created a bunch of other new jobs. That's just the circle of economic life.
Yeah, will be impacted by this, or to what extent. Internally, a slide presentation now publicly available was also shared with employees earlier today, offered a progress report on Square Enix's ongoing reorganization of overseas organizations, of which this restructuring seems to be a part of. Per Square Enix, this strategy already involved closing overseas development studios and shifting towards consolidating development functions in Japan. As a part of this, Square Enix already sold off Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and a number of associated IPs to Embracer Group. It also laid off workers.
Fuck, I hate Embracer Group so goddamn much.
I saw there was a distinct change in your visage. When they're
the only people I never win copyright claims and whatnot against. They're the only ones that are like, no, we'll just rather take this to court. And it's like, I ain't taking this to court. It's a fucking video that did 3,000 views. It ain't worth it. They're also like unrelated. They're heavily influenced by like BlackRock and State Street and all that. But mostly it's because like that's on the macro scale. Fuck them for that. But just on my personal level, Embracer Group is treating me the worst of any corporation on YouTube that's ever tried to copyright claim me. So fuck Embracer.
Fair enough. I respect it.
Across its Western operations in 2024. That leaves Square Enix with Life is Strange, Outriders, and the Just Cause franchises currently being managed by its Western studios, as well as publishing of the Power Wash Simulator. I mean, can you blame them? Think about the kind of money that Square Enix is burning just by keeping these Western teams afloat. We're talking about studios that are getting paid Silicon Valley rates to churn out flops and drag the company's overall performance as well as their reputation. I saw a salary comparison last year that blew my mind. The average starting salary for a game developer in San Francisco was over $100,000. In Tokyo, it's less than $20,000. One American developer cost them the equivalent of 5 Japanese developers, or depending on how you want to look at it, one American
I had never seen those numbers. If that's true, that is
I'm not shocked.
Bananas.
I'm not shocked, and that's probably because, well, one, like, Silicon Valley. So then they're scaling there, right? Because of
like
cost of living. And
Okay.
cost of living in the Silicon Valley, I can speak to this because I lived there. It's astronomically high. And that was the case back in like 2017 when I left, right? So with how inflation has increased just in the last handful of years, especially after like stimulus packages and things like that, like I don't even want to imagine what like a full, not even like a full 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment is like in some place like San Francisco or like Santa Clara. Like that's got to be, it's probably like $2,500.
And you know, $100,000 to the person working on Life is Strange 3. I mean, let's be real. When you think of, when I say, hey, what are the first top 5 Square Enix games that come to mind? 99 out of 100 people aren't going to even consider Life is Strange because those are.
I'm going to say Final Fantasy. I'm going to say Dragon Quest. I'm going to say Star Ocean.
Right there, you go.
They're going to be the ones that come to my mind soon, like most quickly.
Obviously, developers actively contributing to,
but I don't play Kingdom Hearts
for good reason. Based.
Why Japanese developers are getting paid so little. That's what Western expansion looks like on a balance sheet. And look at the franchises they just mentioned. Just Cause hasn't mattered in ages. Outriders exploded out of the gate and then just immediately collapsed. And Life is Strange. Listen, I'm not going to judge anybody. It's just not my type of game. But even then, how many times
hot take, I liked the first one. It's all the subsequent ones that I fucking hated. I
heard that like for people that like that type of game, that people genuinely, for the most part, enjoyed the first one. I haven't played any of them because it's not my type of game.
At the time the first one came out, it wasn't an oversaturated market of these like walking simulator, story-based, interact with items, but like
interactive movie.
Right.
Your Detroit Become Humans and all that.
Shit, 2016, 2017. Like we didn't have an oversaturated market of them yet. So like it felt novel.
We have to hear 20 million players. What does that even mean? Are those downloads, promotions? Is it Game Pass? There's commercial performance there, I'm sure, but I'm not sure that it's trending upward. No matter how many spin-offs or different DLCs they put out, it just hasn't caught on after that. Almost every single Western developed, Western published, or Western influenced project that Square Enix has touched has lost money. Marvel's Avengers was a generational disaster. Babylon's Fall died instantly. And Forspoken, man, I don't even know where to start with that one. But I do know why it happened. Misplaced influence, misplaced values, misplaced confidence, people pretending to represent the audience when they only want to represent themselves. And that mindset, that slow, creeping, boardroom-approved ideological drift spread through Square Enix like a cancer. It erased their identity, their voice, and their sense of artistry. It turned a company that has been known for some of the most imaginative games on the planet into one that couldn't stop greenlighting projects that nobody asked for.
Honestly,
and fewer people.
I don't know how much truth there is this or not. And then, because I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I think that Western brain rot has influenced the West to ruin things like the Final Fantasy VII remake. People want a Final Fantasy VII remake for at least 10 to 15 years now. We finally get one, and it's a reimagining. The characters aren't the same, the story isn't the same, the combat isn't the same. And you could say it's like, turn-based RPGs died. Bullshit. First of all, Expedition 33 proved that wrong. The Persona series has always done strong sales numbers. Dragon Quest has always done strong sales.
And it's actually done better with each subsequent entry since the original launch of 3.
Right. Exactly. So the idea that Final Fantasy VII need to be this massive reboot and departure, I can't imagine that was something that the Japanese devs came up with on their own. I think they looked at trends in Western gaming at a time when Western gaming was doing well and thought we need to capitalize on this.
It might honestly be a combination. Because Final Fantasy has evolved its battle system and changed its battle system from one entry to the next, either moderately or even significantly, multiple times. That's not new for them to do. And while I absolutely can understand and empathize as somebody who played the original back on the PS1 and love the game, and I own it on every single platform that it can be downloaded on.
More times than I care to fucking admit. Like,
it's a phenomenal game. It's a timeless game, and there's really no improving on it. There's as far as I'm concerned, it's basically a perfect game. Like visually, sure. Visually it did not age well,
which is why it could have been a Spyro Reignited trilogy sort of situation. Whereas
you could have done that, yeah.
Same game built from the ground up with modern graphics. Maybe re-record the audio and whatnot because stuff in the 90s doesn't translate through modern sound systems properly.
Yeah,
Do
and that's
that,
entirely fair.
Would have been fine.
However, on the other side of that, I'm somebody who has so far, I haven't played Rebirth yet because I just haven't had the damn time. And I know that game's big. And I'm a completionist when it comes to my JRPGs. And so it takes me a long time to finish them because I'm freaking OCD and I have to.
Yeah, there you go. OCD, there it is.
Like when I play through every single, even though I had already done it once, every single time I do my annual playthrough of Persona 5 Royal, I do a perfect playthrough.
My man.
So, and on Merciless, mind you, as well, because based. So like I can understand that, but I do actually really like and enjoy, though I'd changed some things, I did still overall enjoy the remake. And I know that's a hot take in some places. That's okay. I don't need other people to share my opinion. That's fine. I'm confident enough in enjoying a game. And we already have our differences of opinion with many games, and that's perfectly fine. We can still be friends. I'll still kick your ass and smash.
We do agree on the key thing there, though, which is being a completionist. Because, like, I recently played Tormented Souls, and I loved it so much. It was the most it's the most fun I've had with a fixed camera angle, tank control, survival horror game since the original Resident Evil games on the PlayStation 1. Like, it is that. It spoke to me that much. I was instantly gifted by a viewer. Shout out, thank you so much. Tormented Souls 2. Wonder why I haven't played Tormented Souls 2 yet? Because
I don't think I'm fair to that game.
It's an incredible indie game. It is truly a thing of beauty.
What's the genre?
I've not played the sequel. Tormented Souls. If you like the original Resident Evil games, you would love it. Tormented Souls.
Okay.
But I've not played the sequel because
so it's a survival horror.
It's a survival horror game, a la like the old school Resident Evils. I'm 4 trophies shy of having the plat on the original. And I am not starting the sequel until I can get the perfect.
You're
under
stubborn
2 hours
like me then.
The first one until I can get the bad ending. Like, I'm not gonna even touch the sequel until I have the first one perfected. So it'll be a bit before I get to
I feel you.
2, because I don't know how I'm gonna do an under 2 or 3 hour speed run of this game as of yet. I'm gonna really have to work on that one.
And when those losses kept piling up, I think they woke up. I think they finally realized they were being pulled in the wrong direction, not just in the West, but inside their own walls in Japan, because that influence didn't stay overseas. It bled into the creative core of the company, and that's when the alarm bell started ringing. These publishers are doing exactly what they need to be doing right now. While there's still a few Western developers and Western studios and Western games that are absolutely fantastic, these are studios that are living outside of the machine. They're not.
I was literally about to say, by and large, these would be indie studios. Look, I've heard Battlefield 6 is great, and I'm very happy that people that are playing it are loving it and whatnot. It's not something that it's really going to interest me, at least for any time
I'm bad
soon.
at first-person shooters that aren't named Halo. Pre-Halo 4. Because Halo 4 is just Call of Duty with a Halo skin on it. So,
Sprinting ruined Halo. Do we agree on that? Sprinting ruined Halo?
No, actually, because I didn't mind the sprinting in Reach.
Reach is a little bit different though. Like I love Reach. Reach is a great game. In fact,
because in Reach it was a temporary thing, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, not only that, like Reach I allow to be different because it's not part of the Master Chief story, so you can allow different gameplay mechanics and whatnot. And
Reach is the Halo I was best at online.
Yeah,
that one has a special place in my heart. I almost exclusively played SWAT because that was like the best I was ever at any first-person shooter. Which is probably mid when it comes to most people who are actually good at them.
Make me cry. The story, like when you're just hearing your buddies die on comm, you're not even seeing like a cutscene of it. There's Dude, the fall of Reach breaks you. But anyway, yeah, I'm not a huge FPS guy, unless it's like boomer shooters. I love boomer shooters, things like Duke Nukem and stuff like that. But what can I say? We're old, so
I like the first two Borderlands a lot.
See, I never got. I know people do. I never got into Borderlands. I was never good at it. And while I love cell shading graphics, I think that like they went. You know how something is you'll take things and make them really cartoony, but also make them really mature, and it's supposed to be like, oh, it gives it this distinct edge. It's like, oh, look at how wacky and zany we can be, dropping all these F-bombs, but it looks like a cartoon. Man, Family Guy was doing that in 2000. It didn't hit for me as a video game. So
fair enough.
Social political nightmare that we are entered into almost every single day. And while I'm sure this message won't reach you, you're doing the right thing. We need some time alone. Think about how much pressure these guys are under right now. They have ratings boards that are censoring them for showing too much skin. They have credit card companies that are withholding.
Dude, a rated E game in 2002 would be possibly a rated M game now. It is. We see this with movies as well. Like what would pass for PG? Dude, Beetlejuice was PG back in '87, and he grabs his dick and says "nice fucking model" and squeezes it and makes a honk sound. Can you imagine that being in a PG movie now?
Nope. No, I cannot.
Rounding off the edges, dude.
Holding their money, cutting their distribution, delisting their games, or just outright flatlining their sales. The governments are bought out by these credit card companies, and then you have Western media that is going to drag their games if they don't align with their ideological views. They're getting it from every single end. I couldn't imagine how these guys could take it any longer. No wonder they're
the media and the ideological views thing. Did you see that trash ass that Eurovision Arc Raiders review?
Dude, I am completely outside of the conversation when it comes to Arc Raiders.
Yeah,
I only just heard the game's name for the first time today.
So obviously Eurovision does their ratings based on a 5-star system. They knocked it from a 4-star game to a 2-star game because it uses generative AI for the voice acting. That's it. That's, by the way, voice actors that were paid to do so, paid to teach, voice actors were hired, came in and taught the learn language model all the voices and whatnot, so that they could then procedurally generate more voices as the game goes on.
The voice actors were still paid; they just didn't have to go into the studio.
Exactly.
For a long time.
However, but because the game used that one thing, they gave the entire game a 2-star review.
Man,
thanks for the sub, Steven.
They're fed up right now.
That's something else.
This is the best thing that they can do. Absolutely, it's the best thing that they can do. They need to quarantine themselves. And better yet, the best way to be able to fix the West is stop letting them get a piece of the pie. Stop giving them money. Stop giving them jobs. I mean, look at how fast the manga and anime industries have grown over the past couple of years. I mean, the Chainsaw Man movie and the Demon Slayer movie absolutely just destroyed at the box office. All you got to do is wait them out. They'll come crawling back.
See, but someone asked on X today if we were going to be talking about the anime and the Western takeover of anime, and I told him no, it's mostly going to be gaming stuff. Apparently, that's not the case because maybe I'm in the minority here. I'd love to get your thoughts. I think that with the way that anime is dominating in the West, they're going to be looking for a piece of that pie. They're going to be, started putting in, restrictions or whatnot, saying, hey, anime and your Japanese tendencies of doing things like fan service or whatnot, we're not going to allow that here unless you give us the influence to make changes and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if you agree, if I'm being too simple a hat, but I think we are actually looking at the downfall of anime because I think there's going to be Western influence.
Well, there are a couple of lines of thought on this because on the one hand, anime, as it has been, honestly, for most of my young adult and into now my adult years life, as well as manga, has been on a tremendous upswing because it's been reaching audiences that more Western
you mean
traditional
sales-wise,
forms,
quality-wise, or both?
Yes, depending on what series we're talking and things like that. It's increasing its audience, it's increasing its demographic, and therefore its buyer base. And with the manga, that's especially important because the manga isn't a loss leader, whereas the anime usually is.
Yes, I'm so glad you know that. The amount of people I have to tell that to that don't realize that is insane.
Animation, like high quality animation, is so unbelievably expensive. People have no idea. So a movie could do $500,000, but if it's a 2-hour high quality animation, unless you severely underpaid your people, you might have broken even.
Didn't Redline lose money when it came out? And that's one of the most beautifully animated films of all time.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, chat, or if you want to quote me on it, look it up and tell me I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure Redline lost money, but that movie is gorgeous. There's a reason they don't do movies like that anymore.
But the thing is, those movies generate so much hype and enthusiasm in the people that go see them that those same people then go out and buy the manga. They go out and buy a bunch of merch where there's like really high margin in terms of profit margin. And so these companies can afford to take a hit on the animation because they're making it up and then some with the merch sales and things like that. So that's one piece of it. However, I don't know if anime can continue that in perpetuity unless there is some sort of a hard shift by and an agreement by the Eastern companies that actually produce it and the Western companies that are in charge of dubbing, localizing, all of that, where there's genuine oversight to make sure, like, yes, like we talked about earlier, if something has to be changed because there is no direct translation that makes sense for Western audiences, and we'd just be scratching our heads like, what was that line? What does that even mean? Right? That doesn't work. That takes you out of the story, right? And that defeats the purpose of having it dubbed in the first place. There has to be some oversight there. Otherwise, you end up with things like what's actually happening in Texas, right? Where you have this really, really kind of teetering on a line of majorly dangerous taking away of media and trampling on media.
Yeah, what's going on in Texas is terrifying. I mean, there was a comic shop owner who's like, by the way the law is written, by letter of the law, my Dragon Ball manga is against the law. Now, would they actually enforce that? Probably not. But I'm getting rid of my Dragon Ball section because
he was like, otherwise it's written as like a federal offense, a felony, right? And so he's like, I cannot take that risk, right? And you have that happening in I'm sure a lot of places. I'm sure there are still a lot of shops as well. I should do that this Wednesday when I go to my local comic shop because they have a fairly large manga section. I should go check and see what they still have. Because like I'm sure there are some that are like whatever. Like I'm gonna hold on to it and they're gonna roll the dice. And then others,
because it's like driving 5 miles out of the speed limit. 9 times out of 10, a cop ain't gonna do something.
Right.
But every now and again, you're gonna get that one asshole that's going to pull you over, write you the ticket, not hear anything. It's like come on, dude. Like you're going to, and that was basically this comic shop owner's thing. Was like, I know that most people, probably do not care. It's Dragon Ball. It's been a cultural sensation for 30 fucking years. However. Get one person that maybe has a grudge against your shop because they think the prices are too high, or they were acting like a drunken fool in your shop and you had to kick them out until they call the cops, and then you get sent in, and you are, by letter of the law, technically holding what Texas considers child pornography because baby Goku has his dick out when he's found in the space pod or whatnot, and bingo, bango, bongo, you're on a list and your comic shop shut down. There is risk there.
Yeah.
They just need to make their own games. Don't listen to anybody else. Ignore everything that's going on over here. If you just make your own games, I can promise you it's probably going to be the best games that you've made in the past decade. We're going to buy it. I can tell you that right now. We actually already know that's the case. Because for all...
It's crazy that Japan doesn't realize this is the case, because the people that play these Japanese games, like you and I, and like a lot of people, again, isn't Persona 5 like... After Sonic, it is Sega's golden egg in terms of sales and what they make. I mean, they did ridiculous between all the re-releases.
That's why it has so many freaking spin-offs, because it just P5 practically prints money. I'm sure they had a pretty sweet licensing deal with Nintendo for Smash Brothers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it doesn't help that Masahiro Sakurai and what's his name, the guy behind Persona are friends. But like, it doesn't hurt there. But like the point is, they are printing money with this. Why are people in America buying it? Or not just people in America. Why are people outside of Japan buying it? Because we like that it's intrinsically Japanese. It is not what we have here. That is the selling point. You're offering a product and or service that is exclusively coming from here.
At least that we can't get natively here, right?
Right. Now, member for 5 months. When they make the best games, they get banned, like Dead or Alive, Extreme Beach Volleyball. Memories
of the studios that have ignored any of this Western influence or any of the censorship that a lot of these guys have been put under. Any of these people that are making games that are unapologetically Korean or Japanese or Chinese, every single one of these guys have found success. Too many games feel the same. There is so little distinction left between where any of these games are coming from that more than half the time, the only real identifier we have is the damn company logo. One of the clearest moments for me where this all just kind of hit me like a truck was Expedition 33. Sandfall is a French studio. That was a French game. That game didn't just have a French coat of paint, it lived in that artistic spirit. When I think of French art, I think of wild abandon, melancholy, and desperation, an obsession with creative expression. And Expedition 33, that game just carried it like oxygen. But of course it did, because that game came from a small team working outside the high walls of the...
But that's just the visual aesthetic, because I would actually push back and say that Expedition 33, from a gameplay perspective, is a very Japanese game, and that they are responding to an untapped, or not even untapped, a forgotten part of the market. How many people, when E33 came out, said this is what Final Fantasy should be? Why are people immediately comparing this French game to this Japanese game? It's because they are picking up where there's been a gap in the market. But, yeah,
well, the devs themselves even came out, didn't they, and said that like they were inspired by Final Fantasy and Persona.
Yeah,
that's why the combat system just feels like
when
Persona.
I saw the trailer when it dropped, I was like, "Holy shit, this looks like live action Persona!" From just the way the menus were working, I was like, "It looked like realistic Persona."
Yeah, if you don't think that it was visually and mechanically inspired by Persona, then you've just literally never seen Persona in your life, and so you don't know what to compare it to.
At least Persona
because it was
3 and
absolutely
1 and 2 were a little bit weird.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different thing. They hadn't the Persona franchise hadn't. Well, they just hadn't found their identity yet. It was kind of just still Shin Megami Tensei. It was at that
easier
point.
Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah, it was like slightly easier Shin Megami Tensei until 3, and then it found its own identity.
Right. To the point now where I think there's probably a large contingent of people that don't even know that Persona is part of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. Oh, yeah. That's neither here nor there.
Well, because you have so many people whose first entry was Persona 5, right? And so it's like, well, and I know a lot of old school like Persona or old SMT fans like take, umbrage to that, right? We're like, oh, you're not a true SMT fan because you started with 5. People are going to start with something, right?
I started with 5 and I went back and I loved it. I did start with 5.
And the idea should be
the thing is, because I'm a fan, I went back and played the others. I will never get mad at someone whose first Resident Evil game was Resident Evil 4. I will get mad at you if you try and talk like you're an expert on the subject when you never played 1, 2, and 3, like the original versions of them. So like,
the goal should be like get people hooked with your newest entry and hopefully hooked enough to the point where they go back and they play the older ones too.
Right.
And that's why P3R Reload sold more like in its first window than P5 or P5R. Like it was their top selling game ever.
Yeah, I
own
PCR, but I haven't played it yet because I've been doing so many other games. I'm doing a replay. I'm doing a perfect run, and you know this. We've talked about this of P4, not Reload. What is that? P4 Golden right now. Yeah. And like so, yeah. After that, P3 Reload's on my list, and I'm curious how it is. In regards to the original compared to now, is it just a graphical update? What's the quality of life stuff? Like, I want to know how different it is and compare it to the original, because I like doing shit like that. I like getting down to the nitty gritty of these sorts of remakes. I'm a normally pretty anti-remake guy, but
I know you are.
Persona's pretty fucking perfect as is. So I'm curious how they're doing these remakes. I would love for 4 to get a remake and it just be a visual.
Well, it already
update.
is.
Maybe, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when the remake comes out, I wish they'd fucking prioritize Persona 6 over 4, but that's neither here nor there.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to like really get the people that jumped in on P5 or P3R or even P5R. They're trying to get them to realize that they have this library of other games. And I think what they've been doing is they've been measuring the success of them to see, okay, have we grown our audience enough to where we could entice them maybe with one of our older games if we were to invest in remaking it? And that's what they're doing, because they want to have people experience those older stories, but not like say, hey, in order to experience this older story, you got to go back 30 years in terms of gameplay. Right.
I do get that. It is a good business strategy, but Persona is very much like Final Fantasy in that the games don't necessarily, like, you've got Easter eggs and stuff, but by and large, the stories are all independent. So like, you could be teasing us with 6. You can give us a little cock tease of 6, okay? It's been like when was Persona 5? Like 2015, I recall.
Yes, it was initially planned for 2014 and released in 2015. Yeah,
it's been a decade. Give us goddamn Persona 6, okay?
far and away from all
Okay,
these.
but back to the point before I hit play. But the fact that we just went on this tangent about this stuff shows that we are invested in these intrinsically Japanese stories, and that's why that's why this game worked. That's why Expedition 33 worked, is because really what they gave us from a gameplay perspective was something intrinsically Japanese, but with a French flourish.
Committees and these shareholders that are just flattening everything into the same shape. Now we compare that to Ubisoft, the biggest French publisher in the world. And honestly, can any of you guys tell me or point out anything that just feels French in any of their products? I'm not saying that these games need to be stereotypically
Assassin's
French.
Creed
I don't need to be having mimes doing stealth kills, so that does actually sound kind of cool. But look at their earlier work. Rayman, Prince of Persia, the first few Assassin's Creed games. There was a real sense of craftsmanship there, a voice. You could see it in the artistry. They still have some flashes like that with Anno, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and Rogue, but those are crumbs. Those aren't the focus. When you look at their main output, Rainbow Six, X-Defiant before it died, Far Cry, The Division, whatever their annualized Assassin's Creed game is going to be, there is nothing French about any of it. There's barely anything distinct about it. Ubisoft.
What do you mean?
It's not literally annual anymore, but there was that like 3 or 4 year period where Assassin's Creed was an annual release, and the immediate drop in quality was so apparent. It was. I'm not
obvious. A fan of Assassin's Creed Post 3. People tell me to give Black Flag a go, and
I'm not a fan of Assassin's Creed Post the Ezio trilogy.
And that's a pretty common sentiment as well. I did like the American Revolution stuff. I like American Revolution history. So but yeah, no,
I like the DLC for that game better than the main game. Actually, the Tyranny of King George. Damn. I thought that was an interesting, it was an interesting what if. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay.
Has been copying their American competitors for years, dancing to the same tune as EA and Activision, and they aren't alone in doing it. Other publishers have been doing the same. This all started for one simple reason, money. And honestly, fair enough. You want to make what sells. Military shooters and open world games for printing cash, so everybody's going to follow that trend. That's globalization 101. Bend your product's identity to sell to the biggest consumer market. And that market was the U.S. And the U.S. sits on top of the global GDP charts. And almost 70% of that is coming from consumer spending. We buy a ridiculous amount of stuff. So if you're a company anywhere in the world, of course you're going to want to sell to Americans. And for a while, the studios that pander to American audiences made an absurd amount of money doing it. But what happens when Western audiences stop liking Western games? Because that's exactly where we are today, and I think that's a sign that this industry desperately needs to go back to its roots. And I think this split between the East and the West, with these Eastern publishers consolidating their efforts back home, I think that's going to get us there. If you guys want to know what I mean by going back to your roots, just look back to the last time this industry faced a split like this, back in the 1990s. That was the last era where the East and the West were not trying to copy each other. They weren't trying to appeal to the same audience, the same reviewers, the same value systems. These guys are just making games the way that they make.
Correct. And as gamers, it's not like you had to pick a side, okay? Jak and Daxter is an unabashedly American game. It's fucking 90.
Oh, yeah.
And guess it launched on the PS2.
I love Jak
at the same time, or around the same time as Final Fantasy X, and I played both. I love Final Fantasy X. I love Jak and Daxter. Those are two staple games for the PlayStation 2 era for me, and I bought and played both. It's not like there's this like, oh, people who play Japanese games won't play American games. No, we'll play good games.
No, gamers will just play games.
Right,
like,
and you're right. Sometimes not even good games. You're right, just games,
and that's fine. Yeah, we'll just play games. Sometimes we'll just try shit out. Like I unabashedly love Lollipop Chainsaw. That game has so many flaws. Like especially the original. So I'm not even talking about the repop remaster that they recently did, which was markedly better than the original outside of the soundtrack because of licensing things. But like that was an underwhelming game in terms of like gameplay mechanics, but it was still stupid fun, and that's kind of all I needed out of it. But unless you fall into the category of like you are a Call of Duty guy, and that's literally all you play. You get the new system in order to play the latest Call of Duty and whatever other Call of Duties follow thereafter until the next system. Then, unless you play on PC and you're smart like that, then like that's it. Or like maybe you play FIFA, right? Or Madden. Though Madden fell off a cliff.
Maybe this is gatekeepery, and if it is, good, because this is how I mean it. I don't consider those types of people gamers. Not saying you can't like Call of Duty. Not saying being a Call of Duty fan makes you. But what I mean is, like,
no, they're fans.
You're not a
cinephile
game if all you do is watch Star Wars. I'm glad you love Star Wars. Watch every Star Wars. Go for it. Not the Disney ones. That's not Star Wars. But watch all the Star Wars stuff. Yes, but you're not a cinephile. You don't appreciate film. You don't write story. And so if you're only doing the next Call of Duty thing, or at least the next FIFA thing. You're not a gamer. You're just a fan of a gaming franchise, which is fine.
I agree with that entirely.
Games. Japan was not looking over their shoulder at America. They weren't thinking about global markets, Western censorship, or what any of these ratings boards would have to say. They were just locked into their own culture, their own imagination, their own voice. And what came out of that era? Some of the best games ever made. Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Metal Gear, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Chrono Trigger. All these games built on identity, not trend chasing. Meanwhile, the West had their own thing going on. Doom, Ultima, Fallout, Half-Life, an explosion of PC games that had nothing to do with what Japan was making. 2 creative ecosystems, 2 identities, 2 visions, and both were thriving. Nobody was trying to homogenize anything. Nobody was being told to appeal to anyone because they didn't need to. And that's the part that people forget. The last time that Japan ignored the West, well, they entered into their golden age. As much as I hate to say it, I think the best example that this industry needs to follow creatively, not legally, is Nintendo. Outside of how shameless.
I agree with him because you know what? No matter how anti-consumer assholes Nintendo can be, everyone fucking loves Mario or loves Zelda. Everyone buys up with Mario games. Metroid 4 is going to do fucking numbers. Why? Because Nintendo is stuck to their identity.
And they don't like allow their identity and their creative identity specifically to like be deterred by one group's values or another. They're doing their own thing. They have marched by the beat of their own drum, sometimes to their own detriment and sometimes to the chagrin of their fans, with like having a decade-old hardware constantly always behind. But
Nintendo
their
fanboys
games
were
still
super worried about
sell.
the Wii when it was announced. Like, wait, motion controls. Do you remember how divisive motion controls were and whatnot? Guess what? The Wii is the second highest at the time it came out selling console of all time after the PS2. People really fucking loved them motion controls when they were done well. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And so that's
they've been phoning.
My bad.
They maintained and they retained their creative identity. And you know what? Yeah, Nintendo does a lot of stupid shit, but they also creatively act very smart, or at least smart enough to where they're willing to take risks where they think they can, just to see if they can maintain some freshness. Like this latest Donkey Kong game, I haven't played it yet, but all of my friends that have played it loved the hell out of it, and most of them were a little trepidatious about it at first because it was kind of a departure from the usual Donkey Kong formula. And so, you know what? Bravo to them for taking a risk while still kind of trying to maintain their own identity and doing something different. I can respect that as a creative.
Breath of the Wild breathed entirely new breath into. Oh my god, I can't believe I said that by accident. Anyway, breath into the Legend of Zelda franchise. Now, is it a divisive game? Like, I got issues with it. I want Zelda to be linear and whatnot. I prefer the Ocarina formula. That being said, you can't deny that game did fucking numbers and people love it.
It did extremely well. I would rather go back to like Twilight Princess in terms
Agreed.
of
Twilight Princess is my favorite Zelda game. Agreed.
Like, give me actual dungeons. I don't need the world to be that big if it's going to be that big and mostly empty.
Yep, I agree.
In the Pokemon series, they have remained the same company for decades, the same identity, the same focus, the same creative voice. They have ignored aging audiences. They have ignored whatever trends the rest of the industry is chasing, and they have laughed their way to the bank while everybody else has been scrambling to survive. And it works so simply. They have built the perfect model for an overseas publisher. Nintendo is split into Nintendo Japan and Nintendo America. The American side handles the publishing, marketing, localization, customer support, all surface level necessities of a Western presence. But every ounce of creativity, every major design, every game that defines their identity is made in Japan. That structure lets them rely on the people they trust in the West to be able to promote their games while keeping their culture, their artistry, and their vision isolated from all of the noise. And now this is where my stance might rub people the wrong way, but I think it's the truth. I am a cultural essentialist. I think that collaboration can produce some incredible things, sure. But cultural expression, the real stuff, the stuff that really lasts, comes from a unified culture of making something for yourself, not for the world at large. The broader your target audience becomes, the more your creative voice gets lost. And once it's diluted, it's gone. And right now, one of the biggest problems in game design today is that dilution, that flattening, that desperate attempt to try to appeal to anyone and everyone and end up appealing to no one.
There he is. Yeah, I was going to say, when a game is for everyone, it's for no one. You need
Yeah, you've
niches.
diluted it down to the lowest common denominator, and therefore you distill it to a point where it loses all of its luster. It loses everything that makes it something special, something unique.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you and I disagree vehemently on, like, for example, the Resident Evil remakes. You know, that's one. However, so I'm curious because we haven't actually talked about this. But when it comes to Resident Evil 9, I look at Resident Evil 9, which thank God was gifted to me because I don't have to buy it because I'm the sucker that would because I buy everything Resident Evil. I look at it and I see what seems to be like a good horror game. But it looks nothing like Resident Evil. It looks like an amalgamation of a bunch of modern horror gaming trends, and it breaks me to say this about my favorite gaming franchise of all time, besides maybe Sonic.
Well, so that's been I'm glad you bring it up in that context, because that's been my hang up with not yet having played, because to this day the only Resident Evil games I haven't played are 7 and 8. Because to me, they just look like generic horror game. I've heard they're very good horror games, but like, if I just wanted to play a horror game, I'll go play Outlast or something like that, right? Like, I'm not looking to just play a horror game. I'm not even just looking to play a survival horror game. I specifically am playing this franchise because I love Resident Evil. I love all of the originals on the PS1. I love Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. I don't like it on the PS2, but I did play through it. It's
Good
actually
answer.
it's even better on the Wii somehow.
It is, yes.
Which is I hate saying that, but it is actually better on the Wii. And you know, we disagree on this, but I love the remakes thus far as well. So I have loved more Resident Evil games than those that I haven't. I don't want to talk about Operation Raccoon City. We're not going to discuss that here. I'm not a fan of like the goofy like rail shooters that they did that were basically just House of the Dead. On the Wii,
I even liked those because they served a similar function as to what you were referring to with like what the Persona games were doing. Hey, for people that haven't played the original Resident Evil games that were on the PS1 exclusively at the time, here's a quick on rails version that just gives you the stories of Zero through Code Veronica, so you're caught up on the story and whatnot. And like,
I can totally respect that.
A lot of fun.
I can definitely respect that. I'm just not. So this is, I guess, just a very subjective thing in this case, because I'm just not a fan of rail shooters. It's never been my bag.
Oh,
and
okay,
so
fair
it's
enough.
like, for me, it was like, all right, I'm going to play this. I'm going to do this, but I'm like, I will obviously want to enjoy it. But just by way of that not being my genre, it was kind of an uphill battle, right? But like with Resident Evil 9, I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, it looks creepy. Like the tone looks right, but I'm sorry, like, unless we're dealing with Leon, Jill, Claire, Chris, you know, freaking oh my gosh, why am I blanking right now?
Billy, Barry, Carlos, Rebecca. I could just...
Rebecca. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I was blanking. It's late, but
it is late for you, no worries.
But like, because that's the thing with Resident Evil for me. I have an attachment to the characters. That's why I care about the franchise. And so that was one of the off-putting things for 7 for me. And it's one thing to say, okay, well, we're introducing a new main character into this franchise. Yep, everything that I've seen, you introduce a new character that has piss all to do with everything else. And like, they've got their own, like, in a vacuum story.
And if you want to do that, by the way, fine. But you've got every single one of your main characters have story threads that have not been wrapped up. And so because Resident Evil 2 introduced new characters, Leon and Claire, you know, minus Claire being related, Chris, have no bearing. You got a new location, new virus, new characters. Resident Evil 2 was a complete departure story-wise, you know, from Resident Evil 1. But you kept that thorough line of it's the same.
It was still interconnected.
Right. Now to what you're saying about 7 and 8, first of all, I completely agree with your assessment of 8. Having played it multiple times, I think it's worthless. It's a waste of time. You don't need to play it. 7, it bothers me because they took all the wrong lessons from 7 and put it into 8. 7 feels like the original Resident Evil games, but in first person. Emphasis on corridors and close quarter combat, emphasis on puzzles, actual horror over action. Like 7, now I would still prefer third person, but that being said, if you're gonna put it in first person, all the tropes from the original games are there. And I was like, you know what? I can maybe get over the first person thing because you put emphasis back on puzzles because 4, 5, and 6 didn't fucking have puzzles.
No, they didn't. they were progressively more and more action.
Right. You're alone. You don't have a partner with you, so you're going back to your classic horror roots in that regard. It's, you're in a creepy, dilapidated mansion down in the bayou. That's not too terribly different than a mansion in the Midwest mountains, like the Artley Mountains based on the Ozark Mountains. So, like, it took so many of those things and, in my opinion, did a very good job of, like, if this is the future of the franchise, I'll accept it. There's more good than bad. Then 8 rolled around and fucked it all up. People loved it because Dami Mommy Vampire Girl. I hate it. I loathe it.
I know that there's that bit, and it also, like,
me.
From everything that I've seen out of her, it reminds me a lot of Outlast 2, if you've played that.
Yeah, and I can see,
like
I
tonally
can see
and visually, it looks really similar to that. And I'm like, again, that can work like very well as a horror game, but I'm not looking for just a horror game. Okay, I'm looking for
Resident Evil. So as somebody that, because you and I vehemently disagree on the remakes, but we've come to the same conclusion with Resident Evil 9, which is like, do I want to love it? Yes. What I've seen so far,
I want to love everything that I like engage with.
What I've seen so far, man, it's disheartening. So anyway, we'll keep going with this video. We got just a few minutes left.
You can feel the consequences of this everywhere. You feel it when the best JRPG in the past decade comes from France instead of Japan. You feel it when Final Fantasy convinces themselves that younger generations don't care about anything other than action games and rewrite their entire creative signature to be able to match a belief that isn't even grounded in reality. You see it across this entire industry. Identity is being muted, culture is being blurred out, and every major franchise is starting to feel like a remix of the same ideas, the same influences, and the same values. When I look at the biggest Eastern titles over the last couple of years, I think that the reason why these games resonated so deeply is because they didn't feel like Western games. They didn't try to. They represented a cultural worldview that was completely outside of our own. And because of that, everybody wanted to play it. They pushed against the grain of what the Western industry has been insisting games actually should be, even though we've been telling them it's exactly what they shouldn't be. Take Stellar Blade. There is no shot anyone in the West is going to make a character that looks like Eve or even half the other women that are in that game. And we know that's the case because almost every Western reviewer had something negative to say about it. Not because the game was bad, but because the character designs didn't align with their personal values. They then misrepresented its quality. They lectured the audience, and they were shocked when players loved it anyway. Then you got Black Myth Wukong, a game that took the world by storm. Western media dragged it too, and again, it didn't matter. None of those voices, none of those noises mattered. What only mattered was how the players received the game, and the players saw something that they had never experienced before, a window into one of the oldest cultures on Earth, based on a story older than most languages, wrapped in style and tone that nobody else could replicate. Sure, it shares some DNA with some third-person action games, but that was the only familiar thing about it. And it's not just those two. Metaphor ReFantazio, Lies of P, Persona, Digimon Time Strangers, Granblue Fantasy.
I can't wait to play ReFantazio. I have it. I finally got it. It was gifted to me. Shout out again, viewer. Thank you so much. It was gifted to me about 2 weeks ago.
That game is so good.
Games. I can't wait. I saw Tectone saying on X earlier that he thinks it's better than Persona. Look, okay, need you to chill out.
Apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges. I can't compare them. Like,
really,
it has
from the advertisements for it, the reason I was so this was like Persona but in medieval times.
It has a few similarities to it, but I can't in good conscience like compare them. Like, it's easier to compare Persona and Shin Megami Tensei. Far easier, because Shin Megami Tensei is just darker and more punishing Persona for the most part.
Right.
Metaphor, it's got its own DNA, man. Like, they clearly were pulling things from Persona with the combat. There are tweaks to the combat as well, but there's a lot of stuff there that it's its own amalgamation of things. And so I can't like say, oh, this is better than Persona. And I'm somebody who I love fantasy, right? So right. I still can't just say that it's better. I think
that you are, knowing you love Fantasio. I mean, I had no doubts you would. So like, it's good to hear.
It's so good, dude. It is so freaking good. Like, I can't wait for you to play it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Again, new PC build is going to be world changing because again, I don't want to play it on my dog shit PC. I want to when I get my new build, it's just all the parts except the case are here, and I'm going to be doing a PC build stream in about 2 weeks.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
Relink, God, I love that game. Elden Ring, Armored Core 6, God, I love that one too. You can throw the gacha games into this pile. The reason why these games have succeeded and why they've continued to succeed is because they have something that the West has completely lost: a distinct, unfiltered creative voice. There is something unique and irreplaceable about these games, a perspective that we can't find anywhere else because it comes straight from the heart of that culture that made them. No dilution, no moral committees, no value laundering, just an unadulterated vision, fully expressed with no apologies and no compromises. And players respond to that because we can feel that authenticity.
I've ever heard one.
Yeah, I might need to slap down the thumbnail for this when I clip this into a video. Value laundering. That's really good.
Even when we can't articulate it all the way, we know when a game is speaking with its own voice and when it's speaking with somebody else's. I just think that everybody needs to get out of everybody else's business and the world would be a better place, and so would video games. LD for President 2028. That's my campaign. Hopefully I don't sound like too much of a tool when I say something like this, but this is something that I think extends to just about every country and every creative vision that's out there. I wish American games would go back to being about bros. You guys remember that? It was bros with swords. We had bros with cars and bros with guns, bros with guns.
By the way, everything he's explaining is ironically why I love Final Fantasy 15, because you know what? While people can hate the combat, and while I agree that Final Fantasy should be turn-based, dude, the only having 4 party members and them just casually bantering throughout the whole game, the dynamic of bros being bros felt so fucking real.
People don't want to admit that the 4-person party in Final Fantasy 15 feels more like more genuine, real interaction between 4 genuine, real, different individuals than almost any entry in that entire fucking franchise.
Dude, like when you're driving in the car, set to auto drive because you can fast travel. I never fast travel in Final Fantasy 15, dude.
No, because I want to hear the banter.
And then you'll hear Ignis is talking about his cooking and Gladio, so he's like, I just want a cup of noodles or whatnot. And or you'll be in the middle of combat and Prompto will do something stupid and Ignis will chastise him for it. It was so genuine, and it's the only thing I will ever give Final Fantasy 15 over Persona, as I think that now Persona Royal fixed this, but when Persona Vanilla came out, you could only do one-on-one hangout sessions instead of group hangout sessions. I was like, the group dynamic, it's there when you're doing the dungeons, but it's not there when you're and it didn't. So when Royal came out, and you're like, hey, let's get 4 of our friends together and go play darts. I was like, yes, they fixed it. It made me so happy.
Yeah, I was pretty thrilled about that too. But yeah, dude, 15, I don't actually hate the combat because I'm okay with them taking departures here and there. I do hope when we eventually come around to Final Fantasy 17 that Square, their internal team said, okay, so we tooled around with real time, like hard real time in 15 and 16. We did some pseudo real time combined with ATB in the remakes for 7. Now let's test the waters again and go back to more of a traditional turn-based, because I'm okay with both. I don't feel like the Final Fantasy franchise needs to be just one or the other, and I'm okay with it experimenting. Sometimes you'll have hits, sometimes you'll have misses, but I do hope that they do go back to turn-based, because I want to see now what things maybe they picked up from the stuff that they did in the last handful of years, and maybe some of the other publishers that have put stuff out.
That's what I was going to say. Do you think E33 is going to inspire them to go back to turn-based after seeing its success?
I genuinely hope that they look at that game and they take notes from that. And obviously, if they look at E33, they're going to say, okay, what was the skeletal framework of Expedition 33? Okay, well, they were looking at some of our older games and they were looking at the Persona franchise. So let's do some actual research here. Let's take a deep dive of what lessons they took away from those games, some of which being our own, and what lessons can we learn now from them and go forward and present something that's fresh, but still like something that people that love turn-based games are looking for, because clearly turn-based is
even
not
the biggest
dead.
rivals in gaming did that. Sega was like, what can we learn from Mario but make it better? And they gave us Sonic. Then Nintendo shook in their boots and thought, fuck, we need to speed Mario up a bit because Sonic is killing us. Like, dude, yes, you learn from your quote unquote enemies or whatnot. Like, at least your competitors in this space.
Yeah.
Swords and cars. I miss when blood feuds could only be solved through violence and not friendship and hugs at the very end. I don't need games to have a moral of the story. There doesn't have to be any morals at all. I just want it to be badass. I think that Space Marine 2 proved that pretty well. You know, when I'm talking about some of these really Eastern games, I'm not just talking about Japan. It also extends to Eastern Europe. It also just extends to Europe overall in some cases. I mean, Stalker 2, for all the problems that game had, it was the most Eurojank Ukrainian game ever, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Kingdom Come Deliverance, that Blood of the Dawnwalker game that's going to come from the CD Projekt Red guys that left, that one looks really cool. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. Dude, game was awesome. That's the most European game ever. I need that shit. I want more of that. Give me more of that. I think the best way for this industry to get back to some of the best days that we've ever seen before is for them just to isolate themselves, hide yourself from the noise and people that are trying to influence you into whatever direction they're trying to push you. Players appreciate an authentic voice. I think that's what a lot of people are looking for right now. It's what sets you apart from your competition. It's what makes you stand out in a lot of cases. And I'm not of the mind that anybody needs to pander to the Western audience whatsoever. We are not a monolith. We never have been, for all I know, and we're definitely not one right now. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is just make a game that you want to play, make the game that you want to make, hedge your bets, and make sure that you're not spending too much money, and just hope for the best. That's all you can really do. I'm really interested to see where this all goes. I really am. These guys cutting jobs, taking a lot of money away from some of these Western guys. I mean, it costs them a lot of money to be able to develop here. And then you have all of the extra cultural baggage that's coming along with that. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I just don't see a reason in why anybody would want to come and develop games here. It's too expensive to do so, and there's just too many problems that you're going to have. So I think this is going to be a part of a much broader trend. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sony also go in this direction, or maybe another company. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm absolutely.
Yep, that was a great video. I'll link it to you guys in the chat real quick in case you want to give it a like. And yeah, I would love to get your thoughts on it, Andrew. Now that all is said and done, give us your final thoughts.
So something I think the thing I want to hone in on most, because I prefer to these days try and have a positive spin on things. I think that by and large, as Americans, because of how our country is, we are far more likely to like taste, test, and enjoy the cultures of other countries, right? We enjoy all these various cuisines. We enjoy all these various musics and things like that. You have people who love foreign film and all of that. And just as the same way, gamers, we love Eastern games. We love games. Clearly, I didn't think I'd ever like something that was from France, but I love Clair Obscur, right? So I think it's intrinsic to us as a culture, though as Americans, we have this love and respect for our culture, our American culture here. We're also, I think, pretty flexible and open to like enjoying other people's cultures, but that's different from supplanting other people's cultures. And that good word as well, like usurping other people's cultures and implanting our own into it, right? So if we can just move away from that and just like, I would like to see a renaissance of American media where we go back to like the classic action hero. We go back to classic Americanized video games, and all sorts of media. I would love to see a boom in American
Also, bring
comic
back
books
real
as
instruments
well.
and music, by the way. None of the talking auto-tune shit. But I want to hear the bass. I want to hear the guitar. But that's anyway. Go on, Andrew.
Fair
Keep
enough.
cooking.
Fair enough. I respect it. While at the same time, I want us to stay out of other countries' business when it comes to developing media. Like, let European developers develop stuff that, like, if you're making a game as a European developer and it is very deliberate and intentionally meant to be something that is British history or British fantasy, right? Medieval fantasy, right? I don't want to see Americanized stuff in that because that's not why I'm buying that. Same thing with the Japanese stuff or
It's
Chinese
not
developers.
just that black lesbian woman that's shoved into every episode of Rings of Power and whatnot. It's simple. It's phrases. It's terminology. It's costuming.
Exactly.
The whole
It's more
nine.
than just visual. It's language, it's syntax, it's cultural notes. It's all sorts of things all rolled into one. And I love my culture. I love being an American. I don't need to see my American culture in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Right? I don't
I'll
need
drink
it
my
in that.
Dr. Pepper, while we do this stream, and then maybe later on I'll get some sake if I want to appreciate the Japanese shit.
Oh, there you go. I wish I had some sake on me right now, actually.
Yeah,
I haven't had a good hot sake since the last time I visited my folks. But I just really wish, and I hope we're moving in that direction. Maybe this will be the start of it because you have a large publisher like Square pulling out in some form or another to the level of significance of this Western adherence. We'll see how that actually bears out. Like, things can look one way one day and completely change a month later, right? So let's actually see the end results. Let's see the work. But I would love that. I would absolutely love that because I want to see entertainment as a whole just uplifted again and back in a good place.
Yeah, nope. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiments entirely. So these are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Let me know on X. You can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. We're a nerdy news channel that covers nerdy news every day. Not always about the gaming industry, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check us out on Instagram at wordsparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord. Choose the articles you go over on a day-to-day basis. Choose the videos we react to on the nightly live streams. Of course, get involved with over 200 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to go even further.